Hey everyone, before diving into the dark depths of FNAF, I want to give a big shout out to SwankyBox for sponsoring this video and for supporting me as a creator. With SwankyBox, you can earn free gift cards and cash for things you do online, like watching videos, searching the web, taking surveys, etc. If you're looking to earn some extra cash and gift cards, click the link at the top of the description and sign up. Once again, a big thank you to them for the support, and without further ado, let's get cracking. Well, it happened. Despite news of cancellation half a year ago, Five Nights at Freddy's 6 rolled out earlier this week under the ruse of a pizzeria simulator. If you want further proof it's actually the 6th game, you can dive into your save file and see it labeled that. So this game in particular is really interesting because it is a hodgepodge of so many different things. We have repair antics similar to what we experienced at Sister Location, a multitude of mini games to play through, a cute FNAF world like management simulator, and of course, hidden elements scattered to and fro that paint the backstory of these games in an even more mysterious light. And it is always that mysterious element that makes us come back for more. What's going on in these locations and why? And for one of the first times ever, we actually get an explanation at the end of the game. That is, if you get the good ending. And honestly, the closure in the game is pretty satisfying. Normally we're left trying to piece things together blindly, but we now have proven elements of the story to do so. However, even with this sense of closure, there are things that still remain in the dark. Now, I'm going to throw a spoiler warning out right here, because in order to talk about what isn't explained, we need to use what is explained as a starting point. If you haven't received the good ending to the game yet, I highly recommend trying it for yourself. This video will always be here to check back on. But for those of you still here, let's do a quick breakdown. Throughout the game, animatronics will be found in the alley outside the facility. How they got there is unknown, but you have to test them and attempt to salvage them. If you salvage all the animatronics in the game, you've essentially brought them all into the facility. However, this is where the real plot is revealed. At the end of the game, you can see probably the most revealing cutscene in the FNAF universe. Something that provides closure for a lot of things. Baby begins to talk to you, saying that you gathered all these animatronics in one place just like he asked you to. She believes that they are here to receive a gift, but the connection gets terminated before she can continue talking. This is when Henry begins to talk. He states that the spirit of Baby was known as Elizabeth, and that they're all misinformed. They are trapped in a labyrinth that preys on their senses, all designed to get them into one location that they cannot escape. This is where their story ends. It also looks like your character, who is possibly Michael Afton, wants to end his own life as well. Henry states, "And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you need to be." End quote. He claims that this place will not be remembered, as the temperature begins to rise and the place goes up in flames. He says there will be peace for those trapped, but one of them in particular will be banished to the underworld, where the devil will be waiting for him. This is assumed to be referring to William Afton, who was within Springtrap. Henry then covers the backstory and mystery surrounding the murder of his daughter, who later became the Marionette, someone who tried to protect and help the other children's spirits. He claims he is saving her now with this fire. This is the end of everything. And with that, the game concludes. And now this is where we put on our thinking caps. First and foremost, there's an animatronic called Lefty that is introduced in the game. This animatronic is basically a dark Freddy that has a messed up left eye. However, the name also might be derived from the animatronic being left-handed. Freddy holds a mic with his right, where Lefty uses his left hand. People were initially confused because this animatronic should have been left burning in the facility as well, but we never see it in the ending sequence. However, this is because the identity of this animatronic is mistaken. As pointed out by a normal FNAF fan originally on Reddit, we can see that the marionette is actually within Lefty. The black and white altering colors are different than the normal silver coiled wires. With this in place, the marionette is saved at the end of the game too, since she also burns in the fire, freeing her spirit. On a side note here, I want to point out that I feel like these pages on the wall may have some significance. It doesn't make any sense for an alley poster, because it is so long and is just plain text. To me, it actually looks like single pages pulled from Scott's books. This might be where paragraph 4 comes into play. We might be able to identify the page by the shape of the text, but again, that could also be a wild goose chase. So what we're left with is Baby, Ennard, who is Molten Freddy, William Afton, aka Springtrap, and the Marionette, burning in the fire along with Michael Afton and Henry. A grand finale, so to speak, essentially eliminating all the characters in the series, and burning away the sins of the past. But this doesn't explain everything. We may have the beginning and end of the story, but there are elements within that still need resolved. And as a side note here, the things I'm going to be talking about next are actually things I plan to release a video on in the middle of December. However, FNAF 6 appeared out of the blue and only amplified the mystery, so I went back to the drawing board. Starting off, let's rewind back to FNAF 4. When people were coming through the game trying to figure out the story, Scott started feeding people clues, since he claimed this was the one game that people missed the hidden elements in completely. One of these clues stuck with me for the longest time. It was something he updated on ScottGames.com. What is seen in the shadows is easily misunderstood in the mind of a child. What I always wanted to know was, what was exactly going on in FNAF 4? We obviously had the cutscenes and later on the sister location ties, but I think there's one thing I'm surprised I didn't hear a lot of information on, and it actually has to do with the gameplay. You were a kid who was alone in a room in the dark, and the only comfort you had was a flashlight. Animatronics are roaming the house, and out to get you. This setup became even more weird because it appeared to be connected to the sister location for monitoring. You were even spoon-fed information through a Freddy doll that had a walkie-talkie in it. But when you're exploring the house at night, you are told one critical thing. Warning, listen carefully. If you can hear breathing, hold the door shut. If you do not hear breathing, then use your flashlight. This is why the game is so interesting. Animatronics don't make breathing noises, but humans with masks do. You see, this is why FNAF 4 was baffling. We see cutscenes of bullies with animal masks. Yet because of the darkness of the house, the child could be imagining people wearing masks in the darkness as nightmare animatronics. It's just like Scott told us, what is seen in the shadows is easily misunderstood in the mind of a child. If we roll in the sound technology from the Twisted Ones, although being a separate universe, I can see how this child's mind could become further warped. But why humans with masks? If these animatronics aren't real, similar to how the ghost animatronics seem to be almost PTSD related in FNAF 3, then how does all this fit together? What about the lockbox as well? It's the last thing we see in the game, yet we never get closure. What if it was a chest that holds the masks of the bullies? The text on screen states, perhaps some things are best left forgotten for now. If a child just died, it might make sense to lock away the things that would trigger that memory again, aka the terrifying masks that plagued him. Obviously that's a stretch, and this box could also be something else, but the mystery behind it remains. Another interesting tidbit of information has to do with Ennard's involvement in the other establishments. YouTubers like Blackfoot Ferret have covered this concept, among others. Essentially, you have all these wires hanging down in these locations that don't make sense. There are huge metallic cables dripping down walls and protruding out of floors. It almost looks like nature has reclaimed the buildings, except instead of plants and vines, we have metal. If Ennard is there, it's interesting that he is dormant to some degree, unless he is aiding and controlling some of these animatronics. But beyond that, we still have the mysterious Shadow Freddy and Golden Freddy, who both seem almost ghost-like in appearance. Shadow Freddy in particular is odd because he can be seen disassembling animatronics in FNAF 3, but we never get closure about what is actually happening. Is it Afton wearing a different suit, and thus the spirits of the animatronics seem as purple still? It's hard to tell. Overall though, while Scott outlining the lore and the ending of FNAF 6 gave us tons of clarity, it also didn't solve all of our questions. I suppose that is the best way to do it though. Leaving the story completely open-ended without any sense of actual closure or understanding would almost be disappointing. The mystery is solved, but how it happened is still up in the air. And that's kind of cool. Sprinkling in the other plot points of FNAF 6, like the house scene, was a nice throwback to the other games in the series. We may not have the clearest of a picture, but honestly, I'm glad we don't. Five Nights at Freddy's will live on as a mystery because of it. Oh, just when I thought I was done, more is added to the table. Recently, gravestones were discovered that showcase various names. The names of the other children who died, so to speak. Beyond that, blueprints have turned up that are pretty interesting. We have one of Molten Freddy's head, an emitter unit, the scooper, and Lefty. According to the acronym of Lefty, lure, encapsulate, fuse, transport, and extract. It looks like Lefty has another purpose. The marionette wasn't within Lefty because it wanted to be. It was captured and sealed in this container. However, the thing that really lit me up was the scooper, the scalable creation of ulterior presence. Section D is labeled Remnant Reservoir. When heated, no observable motion. Keep in heated tank at sustained temperature. Substance should be malleable, but not more. Overheating may neutralize effects permanently. Furthermore, this term remnant is brought up in Molten Freddy's analysis, aka Ennard. It says he has the most remnant collectively in his structure, and a remnant is something left behind. Why does this make me super excited? Because it means my sister location theory called the Dark Harvest was right. The one I released a week after sister location came out. Afton was harvesting spirits, Not to create sentient life forms, but possibly because this was a resource he needed to survive. He was consuming souls to sustain his own life force. If he's truly within Shadow Freddy, then this line from FNAF World makes total sense. I will eat your soul. He's a soul-consuming vampire, which may possibly explain why Vlad was a vampire in Sister Location. The burning house would have significance too then. It's finally all coming together. But now that I dumped that on all of you, I'd of course love to hear your thoughts. What things do you want answered in the FNAF universe? If you could have one question answered, what would it be? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this analytical view of FNAF 6 and its predecessors. It's hard to believe the series is finally over. It's been a pleasant ride. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.